Hi everyone, I am Alexandra Bello here with Miami Web Fest interview series, and I am happy to welcome Dani Vermette from Montreal. Dani is the writer and director for Uhauling. It's one of our official selections, and we are interviewing a few of them today and other days. So I am happy to welcome Dani to this interview. And Dani is also a full-time editor for 7 years now from Montreal. So if you are checking our submissions and you go to miamiwebfest.com, make sure to check the names of all the web series that did make it as official selections. So you can, watch them on your own time, or maybe follow all of our filmmakers on Instagram, or check their websites, or check them on IMDb and follow what they're doing and check their content individually whenever you have time. So for now, Dani Vermette, how are you doing today?
I'm really good, thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome to Miami Web Fest. I know it is the first time that you're participating in Miami Web Fest, so I'm happy that you're here and we welcome you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a 27-year-old director from Montreal. I grew up in the countryside and moved to the city when I was about 21. And I started making movie about at the same time when I was in university in Montreal.
Very nice. So do you do this full time, or what, directing, or what do you do full time?
I do editing full time for the TV news for Radio Canada, and I work as a director on advertisements and sometimes on my own project, as it is the case with you, Ali.
Okay, very, very good. So you told me that you've been in the industry of editing for 7 years, but how long have you been in the filmmaking industry, like full-blown filmmaking?
I've been doing filmmaking as a professional ever since I finished university, which was in 2019. So that's 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow, very nice. Congratulations.
Thank
Um,
you.
I also wanted to ask you, what inspired you to choose this career to become a filmmaker?
When I was 15, I had a teacher who was an ethics teacher, and he read one of the texts I was writing. I was trying to write books, like fantastic books, and he wrote a chapter. He read a chapter I wrote, and he was like, "Oh, would you like to do films?" And he brought me on a filmmaking course with older seniors in my high school, and that's where I discovered filmmaking. And at the same time, the first movie by Xavier Dolan came out. And I was like, oh, so it's possible to do that at 21. And I just geared toward filmmaking ever since then.
So you've always been a storyteller, would you say, or that you've always had
Yeah,
it?
I'd say I was 7 and I would write stories and read them to my parents. So I think I was always appealed towards storytelling.
That's amazing. That's about the same age that I started writing little music and stuff. It was 8, like little stories and music. And that's how I got involved. So I know exactly what you're talking about when we get that calling in our life, and we kind of like shape ourselves to where we're going.
Mhm.
So that's very interesting. And it's wonderful that you didn't shut it down. You pursued it eventually, and somehow you made it to that point, because
Yeah,
it's a gift that you have.
yeah. I had a very supportive entourage who pushed me towards it too and really helped me. So I'm very lucky.
Very nice. So I saw in your bio that you love poetry and stories. So you are a storyteller at heart. What is
Mhm.
it that you love about poetry? And tell me a little bit how you ran into poetry.
So I started reading poetry when I was at the end of high school. I think there was a lot of angst and emotions, like emotions that were scattered everywhere, if I can say that I just found in poetry that was very cathartic. And also the use of images and emotions to tell something with very few words, but very efficiently was something that I was really drawn to. And there was this publishing house that was running in Quebec that published a lot of really small poetry books, and I would read them all. I would just buy one every time they would come out. It was $10, and I would buy all of them and like make my little collection with all the colors. So yeah, that's how I started reading poetry.
Very nice. Any poetry in particular that touches you?
Yeah, most of it is like from Quebec and it's in French. But one poet I really like is called Véronique Granier. And she talks a lot about relationships, a lot about feeling at home within yourself and within your environment. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite poets.
Very good. Poetry is very good and recommended for memorization. And memorization for actors is a big thing.
Yeah,
They
that,
always tell us like we need to memorize things and act and all that.
yeah, I actually used poetry to gear my actors towards where they were supposed to go. So sometimes I would just pick out a poem and be like, so this is what this feels like, and we would talk about it after reading it. And it was a great tool to talk about emotions with actresses as well.
Yes, poetry is a great tool to direct your actors, and also another great way to direct your actors is to talk about feelings. Not
Hmm.
necessarily tell them what to do physically, but I've always heard like whenever I have had a chance to go and take maybe master classes from directing or whatever it is, it's about what are you feeling in that moment and how are you trying to mask it, right?
Hmm.
So sometimes you
Yeah,
have to draw from acting, from directing, and from everywhere to basically um, create your own method to direct.
yeah,
But the directors always say that, tell them how to feel and then let them externalize that however they would naturally and organically do it.
yeah. I would agree with that because you choose a performer based on how they appear. So I think you have to trust them as well because you chose them because you thought their essence was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you're allowing them to bring something to the table as professionals,
Mhm.
like you just said. And you don't want caricatures, you don't want robotic actors, you don't want to micromanage their acting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do a great job in the casting stage, they have that. They have what you are supposed to get out of them. They already
Yeah.
have it. If not, the
Yeah.
casting was not proper. It was not the right actor. So, yeah, that's very good. Tell me a little bit about your filmography since you graduated.
So I've done two short films while I was in school, actually, but they kind of expanded after in festivals.
Mhm.
I've done my first short, Danser sur les eaux, Dancing Around Bones, which did a bit of festival in the US and in Canada, and it was about a girl who left everything behind to find her true self in nature. I had another one which was my school story about rugby players, and it was a love triangle with rugby players, female rugby players. And then I came into Uhauling.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good. So, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what Uhauling is about?
It's about a girl who is thrown out of her apartment with the apartment that she shares with her girlfriend. And then she has to find a new place to live at every episode while trying to navigate the steps of grief.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I actually watched I guess the whole season, I would
Yeah.
say. So I saw how it came around full circle. So very, very well done. Great job on that.
Thank
What was the inspiration behind this story?
So I had a lot of relationships that didn't end up well, or where I had been like, where my trust had been breached. And I tried to canalize that into my main character, which was a way of saying, of forgiving the people who hurt me, basically, because the main character has all the flaws, and she's not really like trustable, or she's not like a perfect person at all. She's full of flaws, and I wanted to like forgive the people who hurt me through her, and also come to understand how even if you love someone, you'll do mistakes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. You make mistakes all the time. We're not perfect, and we have to continue adjusting with each other and growing. When did you create this? This is a web series. I mean,
Yeah.
it's categorized as a mini series, but it can also be considered a web series because of the length of the episodes. What was the inspiration? When did you create the web series, and how long did it take you to film the whole thing?
So I started writing it in 2018 while I was still in school. It was a project for one of my last classes, scenario classes. And then I just thought to myself, I have 2 weeks to give this to the financing board. And I was just like, I'm just going to try it out, even if I don't get it. I ended up getting a response and being asked to submit once again. So I did, and I got the financing. And I was supposed to start shooting it at the summer 2020, but because of COVID, it was pushed back to February 2021. And yeah, it was released in April. No, it was released in June 2021.
Did you edit it?
Yeah, I edited it. I wrote it, I directed it, I edited it. I participated in the casting process, in the costume making. I was like everywhere.
That's wonderful. Yeah, because it's your creation. So when it's your creation, you're involved. You're
Yeah.
heavily involved making it happen, which is great. So what what challenges besides COVID did you run into when making this web series?
um, Besides COVID, because that was like,
The challenge.
yeah, one of the big ones. I had to rewrite scenes because of the intimacy in the scenes. Um, Besides COVID, it was the cold, because we ended up shooting in February. So it's like the coldest month in Montreal. It was about minus 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know how that is in Fahrenheit, but it's pretty cold. And our tripod like got stuck in the snow. We had a snowstorm while we were shooting outside. So it was like really hard on the actresses, and they did a very good job, even though they were shaking from the cold.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part, because we had not a lot daylight hours. There was a lot of nights where we were shooting. So yeah, everything about winter is hard.
Oh, well, you made it happen. That's the
Yeah.
important thing. What did you like about the process? What was your favorite part about being in it, in the process of making this web series?
The best part about making that web series was the fact that I chose everyone I was working with, and the people who then went out to look for technicians, say, um, they all found people who got along well. And there were three cis men on the whole thing. One was a producer, one was a PA, and one was like dealing with the COVID stuff. So most of the crew was female or non-binary, and it really made a difference. Everybody was, there was no ego on set. Everybody was very helping, and yeah, the crew was great. So everybody was talking to each other in a cooperative way, and there was no competition. So yeah, it was one of the best sets I've ever been on.
Very nice. I'm happy that you had a positive experience throughout the process. Sometimes when you have a positive experience, it makes the editing go even better and faster.
Yeah.
Because if you don't go, if you don't hit the editing room with a negative experience from the set,
Mhm.
you are much more efficient and productive.
Yeah, and also it helped with the acting because there was no rush for the actresses. They had all the time that they needed to go into the intimacy they needed. So that was great.
Very nice, very nice. So what happens next for you? What is on the slate for your creativity?
I've been exploring different projects and I had trouble choosing one to work on. So I'm working on writing a short film that I'm hoping to shoot during the fall. And I am writing my first feature film. So I'm hoping that will be done by next spring so I can ask for financing and get it done next year or the year after.
Well, if you would have added a few more episodes to this web series, it could have been also considered a
A
feature.
feature, yeah, yeah. But we didn't have a lot of money for Uhauling. We had about $75,000
Mm.
for the 55 minutes it's running. So we had to do a lot of we had to cut things. Yeah, we had to make it smaller to fit the budget.
Yes, well, the
Yeah,
story didn't seem like it was missing anything, so that's very good because the cutting of the things that you're saying, they definitely seemed seamless. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the smooth transitions from one scene to the other. The cinematography was great as well. The acting was very good as well, you know, like I enjoyed all of it. So I commend you for the project. Great, you know, great and professional. That's the
thank you very much.
yes, of course. I wanted to ask you also, how do you feel about participating in Miami Web Fest for the first time?
I'm very happy. It's my first time participating in a festival in Florida. So hi, Florida. And
Hi.
and I've been doing a lot of festivals around the US for the first time, so that's really great as well. I'm glad that there is no language barrier with the fact that it's in French and that I can bring it to audiences everywhere.
Yeah.
And if some queer people in Florida can feel that there are other people around there like them, that's even better. Yeah,
Yes, yes, very good, very good. There's a lot of people in Florida. There's 21 million people, so definitely
yeah.
a lot of different people. You're gonna have an audience everywhere you go, so that's good and important. How do you feel about a year? Because you've been touring with this web series. You've been festival touring for a year.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the process, the festivals, how many, how do you feel, all of it?
We've done about 15 festivals, and some of them were in Europe, some of them were in the US, some were in South America. So I got to talk to a lot of different people. I got to my web series got to be seen by a lot of people, and that's like the best thing you can get as a filmmaker is having people watching it and feeling like they connect with it, even though they're from a completely different part of the world. And I got nominated recently to the Gémeaux in Quebec, which is like the equivalent of the Emmys, but only in Quebec.
Mhm.
Um, so that was like a culmination of all the festivals, and I felt like, okay, I'm not doing this for an empty room, you know?
That's very good.
Yeah,
And you know, being in Miami Web Fest, which has been around since like 2013, when there was not a lot of web festivals around,
yeah,
that's very cool.
yeah.
So I want to thank you for taking time and speaking to all of us, the ones listening, the ones watching out there. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Dani.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Everyone watching, remember to go to miamiwebfest.com if you want to check the schedule for the screenings and for the after parties. And if you want to follow us on social media, also go on Instagram at Miami Web Fest. Remember to also follow Dani and make sure to stay in touch. I am Alexandra Bello, and it was a pleasure conducting this interview for Miami Web Fest interview series. Bye.